most requested features people ask me to talk about, which is running automation tests in parallel. This is an advanced topic. It covers a lot of ground. I have a hard time discussing this because there's the complexity in showing this on one screen. But I'm going to do my best. And I think maybe if I do a PowerPoint presentation later, it will make more sense about what I'm going to go over, because there's a lot of stuff I would normally draw on a chalkboard or something, on a whiteboard. But I'm going to try to discuss it conceptually without any images. And I hope it makes sense to you guys. If you have any questions, as always, you can write comments in the video. I do expect that for this video you have an understanding of Cucumber and an understanding of Watir Webdriver. If you don't understand those, this is going to be just too advanced or too far afield. So in my previous videos I've shown how you can set up a web automation framework in under 20 minutes. It's pretty easy. You just set up, I use Watir Webdriver. I think it's one of the fastest way to get automation tests up and running, and I use Cucumber. I love it. When I'm doing web automation, that's my de facto. If I'm doing other kinds of automation, I use other languages, other frameworks. But for web automation, it's really, I think it's the easiest and most intuitive to set up. That's my opinion for what it's worth. If you're using Watir Webdriver and you've liked those videos and you're making use of them, you might come to a point where you say, wow, it just takes forever though to go through all my tests in serial, meaning I go through one test and another test and another test. I worked at one company, eHarmony, at one time, and the people who had designed the automation framework back then used all the tests in serial, and it took, believe it or not, 7 or 8 hours to run through all the automated browser user acceptance tests. That's insane. And when I finally left that company and I went and I had the freedom to write my own automation frameworks and use my own architecture, first thing I did was figure a solution to this. So some people suggest, let me see if I can pull it up here. Some people suggest using a Ruby gem. Let's see, gem for, yeah, I think it's this one. There's a parallel gem that gets passed around a lot for launching Cucumber tests in parallel. I don't know if I'm going to find it here in the next couple minutes, but what I don't like about it is that I couldn't really get it to work for my needs. And that was a couple years ago. And that was the first thing I came across, was trying to get the Cucumber test running in parallel. And here it is, parallel tests. And honestly, it didn't really work well for me. That was, again, 2 or 3 years ago. Things have probably changed. It might be better. So I found another solution. So let me try and describe what I do. Let me see if I can kind of draw this out. I'm sorry this is so crude, but you know, I'm not really sure how else I can do this. But let me just quickly draw out an idea. Let's say you have let's bring this down. So you're going to have, why am I not? Sorry about this. I don't know why I'm out here. Okay. So you have your tests coming from over here. I'll put T for tests. Inside of here, you're going to have your Cucumber tests. And those Cucumber tests will have many features, right? And each feature is going to have its own scenarios, right? Scenario 1, scenario 2 of test 2. So you have feature 1, which has scenario 1, scenario 2, and so on. And you have another feature here, So a real-world example of this would be you're testing your website at your company, and you say it has a navigation system. So that's your feature. Your first feature is test the navigation. And you have all these scenarios about the navigation. And then your next feature is testing user registration. And so you have a variety of scenarios under that. If you organize your test this way, you can use a third party, which I'm going to make a little cloud if I can. And all your features are going to go into this third party. It's going to take your tests, your features that are coming in simultaneously, in parallel, and it's going to pass them over to another server. And that server is Selenium Server. Okay, so that passes it over to the Selenium Server. I know this looks like a kindergartner drew this. I'm really sorry, but I'm just trying to get the concept out there. So the idea is that you're going to have Selenium Server running out here, and it's going to farm the jobs it gets to what are called Selenium Nodes. Okay, and you may have 100 VMs down here, and they're each is what's called a node. It's a client-server relationship. So here's your Selenium Server, right? And it farms all to all these Selenium nodes underneath of it. And what happens is, let's go through this. You have a test, and it says, test the navigation, and you have all your scenario to test navigation of your website. Goes to this, whatever software we're going to use here, and it sends all the features and all these tests in parallel. And this guy takes the features and passes them over in parallel to Selenium Server. Selenium Server, all it does is get these jobs and says, oh, I got a job for browser automation. I better send that down to this node and this node and this node. And it knows whatever nodes are freely available and what browsers are available, and it sends the jobs there. What I'm going to use in this cloud here, I'm going to use Jenkins. Why Jenkins? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One reason is that Jenkins is a great tool to record pass and fails. It also is part of the build process and development. And so developers, as they commit changes, could trigger, if you design it this way, could trigger these tests to kick off. And they could be automatically testing new code that's just recently deployed. So I'm going to use Jenkins. I'm not going to use that parallel testing gem. If it works for you, that's great. Please make a video of it and show me how you got it set up. I never got good use of it, and I honestly actually find multiple reasons to like Jenkins. So it's a good reporting tool, and it has a lot of great plugins, so I think I'll stick with it. But let's go back to summarize this. The concept here is you have a bunch of tests. You have a test suite, right? Using Cucumber. And Cucumber has all these feature files. And each feature file is going to have scenarios. You have to be aware of that at this point. And what I'm going to do is send each feature file simultaneously into Jenkins. And Jenkins is going to take those files and simultaneously send them in parallel to the Selenium server that's going to be set up. That server will then pass them to any node that is freely available, and it all gets sent back, and we have a record of pass or fail in Jenkins. Alright, enough of that. Let's close Photoshop. Now let's get back to Selenium Server. What you do, you simply look for the Selenium Server jar. At this time of this recording, the latest version is 2.48.2. You download the Selenium Server, and you're going to download it to every machine that is, you need it on the machine that's going to be your primary server, and you're going to need it on the machine that's going to be, all the machines are going to be the nodes. These could be virtual machines, or they could be physical machines, or they could be a mix. Doesn't matter. Like you may have an OS X machine that you're going to use to, or you could have, like a Windows 10 machine that you're going to use to test Microsoft Edge, and a Windows 7 machine to test a version of IE. These could be physical machines, or they could be virtual. So you download that file, and here's an example. I'm going to shut these down right now. It was already running on my local. Here's the other problem with me trying to demo this. In a real-world scenario, I can't really take a video capture of it because there's too much sensitive information at my job. So what I did, I created a completely new project that's a complete dummy project, and I basically downloaded Selenium Server onto this machine, and I'm going to make multiple. I'm going to make an instance of the server and an instance of a node on the same machine. This is not practical, but it's going to be really hard for me to show you multiple machines and that I have set up outside of my work environment. So I'm just going to do it all here. On this terminal right here, I'm going to turn on the server. Well, let me clear this up so it looks a little cleaner. So how I turn it on, once you have the Java jar for the server downloaded, you just do your basic Java jar, Selenium Server, standalone, whatever it is going to be, and you set this parameter, role, as hub. This will kick off, it's very fast, it's extremely fast using Jetty. So it kicks off a server, and it tells you the server is at this address, 192.168.45.7. So that's my local IP, my internal IP, and then you have on port 4444, and then you have this path. Grid is register. This is the path it's telling you that nodes should use to register. The server itself is just running on 4444, and what it's not telling you is the path that you would use to see it, which, let me see if I can pull it up. It's not there. I thought I had it up a minute ago. Here it is. This is what you would go to. It would be /grid. So if this is, so you can see this is the Selenium server that I just turned on. And right now there's nothing really to see. I have nothing connected to it. So let's connect a node. So over here, let's clear this out. In another terminal session, I'm going to open up this. I'm going to open up a node to talk to this guy over here. The difference is I'm running role node, okay, instead of role hub. It's role node, and then another parameter is passed in for hub, and this basically says who's the server that I'm going to register with, and this is it. 192.168.45.7, port 4444, grid register. And all I'm doing is getting that from the console output here from the server. So now when I run this, you'll see, look, registered a node. So now it has a new node, gives it a new port, probably because I'm on this system here, same system. And we should see something a little different. Okay. Now it says, I got this node that's available, and it looks like I can run the following browsers. Obviously, this is wrong. I can't run IE on this because it's a Mac. This is just your default configuration. Whatever browser information you're going to pass over, it's going to try to launch that browser. Now, I'm not going to get into the complexities in this video, but you can actually configure it to say, this node only runs Firefox, or this node only runs IE version 11. And that way you can specify tests for specific browsers, and it goes to those browsers or browser versions in specific virtual machines. Up to now, we should understand we have Selenium Server running, and it's sitting out there waiting for a test. I'm going to minimize it for now. We've got, here's the server, and this is the node. It's all hooked up. Everything should make sense at this point. What we can do to just make a test to make sure we got it all hooked up correctly is we can simply, I'm going to move this around so we can see some action when it kicks off. We can simply create a new little project. And we say, okay, I want to pull in Watir Webdriver and I don't even need to say Cucumber here, but we'll just say I'm going to pull in Watir Webdriver and I'm going to define a browser class. I didn't need to do a class variable, but I get so used to it because of Cucumber. But I define a class variable of browser equals Watir browser, new session. Everything's new here, except look at this, remote. And then URL. And then look at this. But I'm going to go to Google. What remote allows me to do is it allows me to pass through a proxy, and that proxy is the hub. It's the Selenium server. So if I run this, it should send this call to open a browser and go to google.com through the Selenium server. And look at that. We got information. See, it did it. So we know we're making a connection now through Selenium server. That's perfect. Because if we can do that, that means we can send all our jobs out there and Selenium will take care of it. So the next question is, how do we do that with our Cucumber tests? Well, it's actually pretty easy. If you follow along my website or my videos, you'll see that I make use of this envrb file quite a bit. And what it is, under features, I create a folder called support. In there I create an environment.rb file. And this sets up all my preconditions. It says every test is going to use Watir Webdriver and Cucumber. I make use of a variable name of browser name. I give it a default browser. But this allows me, let me tell you what this does. This allows me to set the browser from the command line. And this is going to come into play when we talk about Jenkins. But right now, let's just run some tests. Let's just create some features and we're going to run them out through a default environment. So I created an environment variable called grid. And grid is going to do a remote call to my Selenium server hub. And it's even going to pass in something cool. I'm going to say, and my desired capabilities are browser name. Well, that means I can say, I want to make use of Chrome or Firefox or whatever. So at some point, if I want to make my tests, if I wanted to run all my tests, not only feature by feature in parallel, but maybe I want to run even browsers. So all feature 1 tests in a Firefox and all feature 1 tests in Chrome are running in parallel. You could do that as long as you have enough virtual machines or enough physical machines to farm the nodes to. It's all doable. And this will cut down your test times. Like I said at eHarmony, it was like ridiculous. It was like 8 hours or something to finish all these tests in serial. If you run them all in parallel, if you have enough virtual machines, you could finish them, in like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it takes to run the longest feature. If you have enough virtual machines, it can be done. So let's get into it. So what I did, just for grins, I created a simple little scenario, created 2 features, and in each feature I created 1 scenario each. The first one is going to test Amazon. It's going to open up a browser, the default browser, Firefox. It's going to go to Amazon and it's going to enter a search value. I'm not even going to assert properly. I'm just going to do this just to make sure I can make this happen. As you can see, we got some activity in the window over there. You notice I go full screen because I've told it to do that. And here's what it's going to do. It's going to type the word, yep, there it goes, type the word cucumber in there, and I get some results back. At the end of this, it should close the browser out. Hope it does. Oh, it didn't because I haven't finished the test. See, I didn't do the then. That's okay. For this demo, we're just going to show how we can farm these two jobs in parallel. So now I want to take a look at doing this. So now we have this one job. We've seen this one feature just got sent to the Selenium grid, who farmed the job to a node, and the node opened a browser and did all the activity. Just so happens for demo purposes I'm doing it all on one computer. But in the real world it wouldn't be this way. You would be farming it to the nodes would be all these virtual machines. But now let's look at this. Let's pull up Jenkins. I told you I'm going to use Jenkins, and here's why. Jenkins can run, right now it's set up to run 2 simultaneous jobs. But if you manage Jenkins, you can actually tell it to run how many jobs. And you can have it run 10, 20, 30 different jobs. And they're called executors. So we're going to set it to 10. And if I hit save, look, see all these executors? This means these are unique jobs that can run in parallel. So I already created a job here called Amazon Search Feature, and it was successful. Isn't that cool? I mean, you can look at Jenkins and it says, oh look, your test passed. You got a bright sun, you know? That's pretty cool. You just look at it. If it failed, you get like a negative thing. I think it's clouds or dark sky or something. But you get an idea of pass or fail, shows you your last success. Everything's right here. How I set the Jenkins job up was let's make a new one. So I did a new item. It's a freestyle project. We'll do one for the other feature. It is a Google, let's do this, we'll call this one Google Search, because that's what the other feature is going to be. Inside your new job, you're going to click Advanced, and you need to set the custom directory, which off the top of my head, I don't remember it. We'll have to come back to this. We'll have to set a custom directory. For now, I'm going to leave it blank. We add a build step, which is going to be a execute shell statement, which will be cucumber features, and then the feature file we want to run, which is going to be, I think it's Google Search Feature. Save it. Alright, let's go back to the other job, Amazon Search Feature. So if I click into this and I configure it, let's take a look. This is the path we want it to run in. What this path is the directory that the project is in. My Cucumber project is called Selenium Grid, and it's in this RubyMines projects folder. So this is where we want to execute our command, and you'll see the command is right down here. If you don't put the directory in here, it's going to execute Cucumber features and this path from the Jenkins default home directory, and that's going to error out. It's going to say, I can't find that. And that's pretty much it, right? So let's run the Amazon feature. So at this point, we have Selenium Grid running, right? It's still running. We got the server, we got the node. I'm going to take this and run it. When I run it here, look what it did. It kicked off and it created a new window. It's just doing the same test. It's doing it as though I ran it from the IDE, right? And it did the same test, and we got a success. So that's pretty cool. I think that's cool. At this point, we could do the same thing with the Google search. So let's configure it. Go advanced. Use custom workspace. Paste it in there. I think it's called Google search. Let's just verify that. My other feature is called Google search feature. And let's save it. And let's just test it. Hopefully I did everything right. Yeah, I found it. And it also kicked off. So now we have two tests that are both configured through Jenkins. to work with Selenium Grid. Now, do you follow what I've done? What I've basically done is I've created multiple features in Cucumber, right? You could imagine each feature here could be different functionality on your site. I'm passing them all in. I'm using Jenkins to call them, and I've configured Jenkins to then basically make a call to run the Cucumber test. And when it runs the Cucumber test, it will run these jobs through Selenium Grid. So I don't know if I can run them in parallel, only because I don't know. I only have one node connected to the system, but we could try it. Let's just see what happens. We'll do a build now. We'll do another build now. So now I've got two jobs running in parallel. You can see they're both kicked off here. Selenium Grid is farmed both of them to the same node because I only have one node connected, and they both passed. So you can see the whole system's working. It's all working here locally. This is how you set it up. It's very simple. Very simple stuff. It's not too complex, and I really like using Jenkins because in the end, what you can do is set up something like this. You could say, I'm going to create a new view in Jenkins called, I don't know, we'll call it Firefox. And this could be, let's go back to Jenkins now. You could have in Firefox, you could configure this to change it and set and pass in, you know, browser equals Firefox. You could do something like that, or browser equals Chrome. And now you have all these tests that are different combinations of not only features but browsers or even different environments, and you could be calling it all from within Jenkins, which will house your totality of all your test runs. That's what I love about Jenkins, because you have a nice history. You can go back to any of these, and you can see how many times it ran, and you can even drill down and look in the console output and see what happened. So that's what I love about Jenkins. As for everything else, well, you know, everything else is pretty much set up in the Cucumber settings itself, in the actual project, which is under, you know, here back in the environment variables we called Water Browser New Remote. We passed in the hub for Selenium Server, and at that point it's up to the Selenium Server to send it to the open nodes that are available. That's really it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try to make this a little cleaner with some PowerPoint presentations and add that as well. I'll put the code up for this little project on GitHub, and you can take a look at it as well. Thanks for listening.